Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm delighted to be able to introduce you to a very fine set of colleagues today who I'm chatting to in honour of 2025 Remembrance Day. As many of you listening will know, Nurture are firm advocates of the armed forces community, stemming not only from our founder, but our acquisition history, most notably Gavin Jones, who held the Royal Warrant for a number of years, and that maintains military housing and sites and employs a lot of ex-military personnel. But we also have a strong association through our main client base. Nurture, like many businesses, are very keen to employ people from a veteran background, since we know that they possess the skills and attributes that we look for. We're very proud at the moment to be holding the Silver Covenant Award, which represents our commitment to those who are currently serving and those who are transitioning for careers in civilian life. And we're in the process of applying for our gold, which we hope to achieve in spring next year. So after that, I'm very pleased to introduce some of our team from Gristwood and Toms, who are the arboriculture vertical of Nurture Group. We have the head of operations for arboriculture, Gary Scott. We have the central regional manager, Louis Dealey, and we have the home counties regional manager, Calvin Woolman. Then we have contract managers, Graham Bolden and Andy Steels. All of these guys specialise in arboriculture or tree care, for those who don't know. So I think most of you have been with us for some time. There's a couple of newbies here, but let's rewind a little bit and go back to your lives before Nurture Group, when you were in the services. If you can tell us a little bit about which branch you served in, how long that was for, and what your role was. Louis, let's start with you.
Yeah, so I actually started my military career with the UOTC while I was at university in Plymouth. So it was UOTC, University Officer Training Corps, based in Exeter, attached to 9 Rifles, I believe it was at the time. I did a period of time there actually training as an officer while I was at university. Situation changed. I decided to move away from university, come back up to Birmingham and join a different way. So I ended up joining onto 4 Royal Regiment of Fusiliers A Company, who are actually based in Birmingham themselves. And then with those guys, we were then attached to Mercian on a deployment to Cyprus on Operation Tosca, which saw us acting as an element of the UN for the peacekeeping mission over there.
Thank you very much. Gary, how about you?
Hi, yes. So I served in the Royal Marines. I joined the Royal Marines at the age of 18 and served for 14 years, various places across the globe. I was attached to the Special Forces side of the British Army and the Royal Marines for 7 years. And my last posting, I worked in London for the last year. So
fantastic.
That's my career.
Graham, how about you?
Yeah, so I was in the army for 7 years. I was in the 1st Battalion, Princess of Wales Royal Regiment. Served across the globe, really, all over the place.
Gosh, what an interesting, it's definitely not in an office there. How about you, Andy?
Right, so I started back in the very early 90s with the Royal Anglian Regiment, with the 3rd Battalion. Served with them for a couple of years, and then I transferred over into what was the newly formed Royal Logistic Corps. I served just about in every conflict there has been in the last 30 years. So I did 3 tours of Afghanistan, 2 tours of Iraq, 6 tours of Bosnia, multiple exercises and operations around the world. Given the role that we did within the logistics, we supported the tri-services, so we supported the RAF, the Navy and the Army. Again, alongside the Special Forces, we were attached to those on multiple jobs. I ended up serving almost 25 years. I left as a selected warrant officer class 1. I was due to be posted to Army headquarters at Andover to be what we call the head of trade. So that would have meant I was the SME for the logistics sort of operations. But after 24 and a half years, my time, I was ready to leave. So I declined and left the military then as a WO2, Warrant Officer Class 2, Sergeant Major stroke SQMS, and then came straight into the tree world. So yeah, so 25 years military service, and then straight into this. So,
wow.
yeah.
Thank you. Calvin, and not last but not least, how about you?
Okay, so I joined the army as a junior leader at the ripe old age of 16, and then went into the 1st Battalion Royal Anglian Regiment. Served some tours of Northern Ireland and Bosnia in the early 90s. Ended up being a rifleman, going into a Milan platoon, anti-tank platoon, and then ending my career in reconnaissance. Done 6 years infantry.
Blimey. Thank you, all of you. That's I wasn't expecting those answers, and it's hugely impressive and admirable. So, Gary, what inspired you in the first place to join the military, do you think?
Inspired me. I didn't have aspirations to join the military as a youngster. Kind of funny story how it happened to me. A friend of mine one day decided he was going to join the Royal Marines, and he said, "Would you like to come with me to the careers office?" And I thought, yeah, why not? So at the time it was in Glasgow. We had the RAF, the Army, and the Navy careers office all next to each other. So we went in, and part of the joining the Royal Marines test, they made you do pull-ups in the careers office. The Marine that was on the desk said, right, okay, jump up and do me 10 pull-ups, sorry. So unfortunately, my friend at the time, he didn't manage to do them, which I found was quite funny. So he said to me, well, you think it's funny, how about you jump up and do it instead? So I did, and I said, how many do you want me to do? And he said, well, just keep going, and I'll tell you when to stop. So I managed to achieve the 10, and he said, right, how do you fancy joining the Royal Marines? And I thought, yeah, well, that sounds like a good idea. So that was my story of how I joined. Yeah, so took the paperwork, home,
or pulled into it.
Yeah, done a bit more reading about it, and thought, do you know what, this is actually a really good idea. I fancy this challenge. So 3 months later, that was me. I was away. So yeah that's how this.
But you didn't realise how much, what doors it was going to open for you, and such a big part of your life.
It has been. It was a big part of my life. Yeah. 14 years, quite a long time. I think same as Andy. My time was up at the end of the 14 years, and that was me. I'd been away so many years, and I thought, it's time for a change. So, but would I do it again? Yeah, of course I would. Yeah.
Wow. Louis, how about you? What did your time in the service teach you in terms of yourself, teamwork, and leadership?
Yeah, so for myself, it taught me masses. It taught the importance of self-motivation from a personal aspect, because ultimately the trials and tests that you put through the military, if you're not personally motivated, then chances are you're probably going to fail. And then importance in terms of leadership, especially going through the Army Officer Training Corps. Obviously, there's a big focus on leadership, because that's developing you to be an Army officer to then lead men into battle. That really did show me the importance of strategic leadership. Actually standing back, thinking about how you're going to approach a situation, and then following through with that approach.
You must be able to motivate people. If you can motivate people to go into battle, then it must seem fairly easy to motivate them to get up a tree or whatever.
There's different ways of motivation.
Carrot or stick.
Good or bad.
Thank you. Graham, how would you say that military life has shaped how and who you are today?
Oh, massively. Yeah. Like Louis said, it's how you deal with situations, and respect, and the chain of command. And I think a big thing for me is time. I hate being late. I hate people being late. It's the old saying, 5 minutes before parade and all the rest of it. But yeah, it's taught me good lessons for this job.
Andy, tell me about the similarities that you see between military life and working for Griswold and Toms, if there are any.
Well, I mean, what initially drew me to the tree world, initially leaving the services, is that you don't really want sort of to be office bound, even though most of us probably are now. It's just a natural pull. But the tree work, it's exciting, it's hard work, it's outdoors, it's playing with saws, getting dirty, and it's all very much the same as military life, if you like. So you sort of leave that element of camaraderie and discipline and everything else. You come into the tree world, I think, expecting a similar sort of thing, and you do find it actually. There's a lot of ex-military that are in the tree industry, and I think that's what draws one, because you climb in trees, it's high, it's exciting, it's adrenaline. I mean, take the health and safety sort of aspect and all that away. The pull is, if you like, it's like a man's job, if you like. So you want to be sort of dirty and
don't tell Evie that.
no, I don't mean as I say a man's job. No, absolutely. I'm talking from that military. There are female military lasses as well that are joined. So
dig.
Yeah, well, getting out of it now, aren't I? Yeah.
Just where you've got an ed.
They're all laughing at me.
That edit
So you could edit, didn't you?
Yeah.
But definitely that sense of teamwork, it doesn't leave you, right? And I think hopefully that reflects well. I mean, as well as, I guess, the stress of being in the military. I mean, it's a high stress environment. Being in nature is the antithesis of that. It's the remedy, isn't it? So if you're outside in, among the trees and everything.
It's also it's the unpredictability as well that this job brings, because you don't know. Every day you could go to a different scenario, a different job or whatever. So you're sort of thinking on your feet a little bit. So again, you tend to know. We know if you've served, you know, just by talking to someone who's ex-military or whatever, just by their mannerisms. And if you work alongside someone like that as well, those similarities really become apparent. You can sort of do things instinctively with each other. We work in small crews. We work in 2-man, 3-man. If you're fortunate enough to have 2 a year that are ex-military, it's it's like salt and pepper. It's perfect,
That reminds me of a guy that I was talking to. I was mentioning about these awards that I went to a couple of weeks ago, the Lord Lieutenant Awards, and we're speaking to somebody, and he said the thing about other jobs is when you leave them, it's like, oh, that's my ex-colleague. I used to work with them. They had a good time at the time, and all the businesses like to paint themselves as, oh, we're a family. But he said it's completely different in the military. You never really leave. You're always a part of it.
There's two aspects to that. I'll go back to like what Louis said. Louis did officer training and everything else. So Louis is obviously educated, whereas the rest of us aren't. No, I don't mean that. I'm joking. But so Louis,
you're just making it worse, Andy.
Louis would have seen the Sandhurst element that you spoke about, how that dinner and everything is all very pompous and proper. The rest of us, and definitely for me, I ended up in the warrant officers and sergeants mess. Now that's a mess. That's an institution that you can't buy into. There's no amount of money will get you, and that's the same with in like the boys that are in the infantry and Gary. You get into the corporal's mess or what the junior NCO's mess. You don't. No one can, unless you're invited by someone who's the member, and you can only be a member by being that rank or ranks that have served. So, the warrant officers mess or the sergeant's mess is the most exclusive club in the world. People honestly want to be invited into these messes because we do it the same as the officers do. We have top table lunches. We would have had the colonel in chiefs, the queen, whoever at the time was there, and it is the ceremony. It's all done on. And if Stuart was here, he would have told you because he was ex-guards. He used to be a donkey walloper, so he'd ride around Hyde Park on his donkey with his big funny metal.
A donkey walloper.
Yeah.
What's a walloper?
He walloped the donkey.
You literally walloped the poor donkey.
That's what we call cavalry because they get on the donkey and
oh, okay, I got you.
So they're donkey wallopers. Yeah.
Melanie, I hope we don't get downgraded to bronze after this. Interview.
We're going to be doing a lot of editing, Gary. So, Calvin, are there skills or values from your service time that you feel particularly help you in your role at Nurture Group?
Yeah, without a doubt. Self-motivation, I think, is one of the main things. When you're on the tools, you've got to be self-motivated. If it's raining, to get out and do the job. It just sit in the vehicle and let the rain go by. But yeah, you've got to be, the self-motivation is massive. And with what I do now, the same thing applies. Teamwork, brought out of the military, that comes into the office. I still need a lot of it now for IT issues that I come across every now and then. Some of us are better at other things. Stills is brilliant at IT, helps me out quite a bit, even simple stuff. So yeah, that helps an awful lot. Calculated risks, we're used to doing that in the military all the time, and that helped out massively when I was on the tools, and you can then pass that on to the ops staff as well. Massively. And being well drilled, alarm goes off, get up in the morning, get into work, can't be late.
It sounds like a really good follow-up job from from what you guys are all saying. It sounds like
it's absolutely superb, because you've got those calculated risks. It's like Still said, you've got all the chainsaws, and there's a bit of danger, and you're going to get home with a couple of bruises, the odd scratch, dirty, stinky. It's absolutely amazing. It is. Yeah. It's wonderful. And then obviously, as time goes on, contracts manager, regional manager end up in an office a little bit more distance away from the trees. I see the lads and lasses when they get back, and you think, it's lovely, and it's just graft. If you can graft, and it's good.
That's what you want. So, Gary, tell me how you think businesses could better support veterans as they transition into civilian careers.
Businesses, I think, the awareness of, the fact that, you've got veterans in a business, and, bringing them together like we're doing sort of now, and, because I can honestly say there's a lot of the businesses I've worked for, you're all part of the Armed Forces Covenant, but I don't think that gets brought into daily business, or it's not utilised as it could be. I think we could always do that better as a business, but most certainly I've noticed it since I've been at Gristers and Toms, the strong military presence, within the team. And that kind of sticks out like a sore thumb, if you like, how with the guys, the guys on this call.
Do you think that it's better? Like, is it better having a majority workforce that are ex-veterans, or do you like the mix, or do you think a couple is enough?
It's always got to be a mix, isn't it? But everybody understands where I think it's easier to understand how people work, because we all came from the similar backgrounds.
But if you had like a different, so the service is quite hierarchical as I understand it. So if you've come in and you're, for example, if you've come from a higher rank than somebody else, but they happen to be your boss, is that quite a challenge?
I wouldn't say so, no, because you
understand.
Let go of that. Yeah, you understand what the chain of command, and we all kind of pull together. I mean, just because you're top of the tree doesn't mean to say that you're always right. And that's the way you work at the military as well. You might have to make the final decision, but you've certainly got to listen to everyone's input, especially when you've got professionals working in the business that are experts. So you'd be foolish not to. So that's what the chain of command is. You might be making the final decision, but you've certainly got to evaluate all the answers you get from your experts that are sitting in front of you.
Well, that is one of my favourite sayings, actually. It's a Chinese proverb, and it is the wise man knows how much he doesn't know.
Exactly.
You heard it here first.
Certainly not. I don't claim to be the cleverest man in the room.
I don't think any of us could be. I think you're more clever if you understand that you're not that clever. That's my philosophy. Louis, tell me about because we're here for Remembrance Day. We're kind of honouring that in this conversation. So tell me if it means, or what it means to you personally.
Yeah, I mean, it's that moment to just step back and reflect on the history of the military. Basically, we go all the way back to World War I, World War II, and think of those, which I think on the whole, people tend to reflect on those. But then for us guys that have been in the military, we will probably then reflect on friends that we've lost during tours, or friends that we've lost outside of the military as well. So it's that moment to reflect on those guys and the times that we had with them.
Yeah, no, it's just a nice way to thank them sort of as a collective. Graham, is there a message you'd like to share with your colleagues this Remembrance Day?
I think for me, it's look after each other, because there's a big stigma on mental health at the moment with ex-military forces. So I think that'd be my message: just look after each other, really.
Yeah, and yourselves. I mean, we did a big push for Mental Health Day last month, or a couple of months ago, which was with Andy's Man Club. It's a fantastic charity that is just for men, and you can rock up any Monday, 7 o'clock. There's absolutely hundreds of them all over the country, and you don't have to book, you don't have to pay, you just show up, you don't even have to speak, but it's an opportunity to share issues and have a platform to say how you're feeling, because I think a lot of men do struggle with that, and being able to let people know when they are not having a good time, and obviously that can have catastrophic effects. The statistics are very scary. So I would urge anybody listening, if you are feeling bad, look up Andy's Man Club. They are an amazing charity, and we've been really, really lucky to partner with them. Andy, how would you ideally like others, especially those who haven't served, to approach or understand Remembrance Day?
Well, I think Remembrance Day, as it was, for its initial, what it was for was to remember those that fell in the two world wars. But over the years now, to try and expect someone who hasn't served to understand what it means to any one of us who has served. We all in our own rights would have seen things, done things, lost close friends, buried people, left people, but I think the way remembrance has evolved over the years now, so those that are non-serving, they have their own way of remembering. So Remembrance Day doesn't not now necessarily mean it's a military remembrance. It's Remembrance Day now, I think, for the non-military, is for anybody to remember whoever they want to remember. So if it's family or friends, whatever, like Graham just alluded to there, the sort of mental health aspect of it is massive, and military do tend to box things and not let things out. And I think the Andy's Man Club is brilliant, because Gary will tell you, there's ex-special forces people out there that have done things far beyond what we've done and seen, and they will cry like a baby, with the mental health issues. So to the outside world, it's very hard to explain to them how we see it. But from today's evolution of remembrance, it's for everybody. So anyone, they can all remember who they want, whether it's pets or friends or whatever. So it's just that time with you could just take a breath and remember. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
just have a bit of empathy and just take a moment to think what that
absolutely.
might feel like, and what that may have been like for people who've been in those situations. Yeah, that's good message there. So as we wrap up this awesome interview, Calvin, what advice would you give anybody who's thinking about leaving the service and coming into civilian life? What do you knew?
Take it in your stride. That's what I'd say. Take it in your stride. Don't expect it to be anything near what you've been experiencing over the last few years, because when you do get out, it's a bit it's really strange, very, very strange. You come from a really regimented background, you get up, you do stuff, you do what people tell you to do, you go out and have a laugh, and then you get out and then you get into a workplace where people are very, very different and haven't experienced anything near what you've experienced. Loyalty.
Do you think that's quite isolating?
I found it really difficult for a couple of years, extremely testing. Yeah, it depends on what age you went in, how long you went in for, but yeah, I found it extremely difficult getting out. It was almost, you come out, it's a bit lawless almost. There's people doing whatever they want to do when they want to do it, and you get into the workplace, and you might have different ideas, and yeah, it's really quite strange.
I think you're right. Just to jump on the back of Cal there, it's a hugely daunting aspect when you leave the military, because you come from such a regimental way of life where, regardless of what rank you are, you always know what you're doing. Someone's always...
It's pretty simple, isn't it?
Yes,
really?
yes,
Yeah,
it is.
really.
It's very simplified. So someone will tell you when you're eating, someone will tell you when you're not eating, someone will tell you when you're sleeping, and if they're not telling you, you're telling them. And it some people leave, like me and Gary. We knew it was our time to leave, so that transition is a little bit probably less daunting to someone who's not ready to leave, but are sort of forced out, or for whatever reasons. Some people don't want to leave. Some people, they naturally get to their point of service, and they don't want to go, and they have to go. And it's such a regimental, indoctrinated place. You're so used to that way of life.
So you just really, so I'm hearing it's almost like institutionalized, like a little bit.
Yeah, massively. Yeah,
yeah. I mean,
yes,
the other thing as well, if you have a disagreement with someone in the military, you can have a real proper disagreement, and out here you can't do that because you get in trouble and get sacked.
As this interviews or as this podcast, you'll realise really there's a thing called squaddy humour, and we have a very dry.
I'm getting a flavour. Don't worry.
Whether that's sort of whatever service you're in, there is that's the way you sort of deal with it. Whether you're on operations or whether you're just in the barracks, you have this what we call squaddy humour. It's very hard to transfer that to civilian life, because
not accepted out here.
Yeah.
People
so I
look
guess
and think, what the
maybe try and find businesses to work for that have at least got a few ex-service, so that you can sort of, you've got some familiar ground there. But be prepared.
It's not even
cut yourself some slack.
For people thinking about leaving the service, it'd be more that what we can do for people leaving the service. Because I knew nothing about tree work when I first got out, and I went to work for Royal Mail delivering cash in the armoured vans. It was driving through Ealing one day, and I saw a bloke up a tree with a chainsaw, someone on the ground with a chipper, and I thought, that is it. That's what I'm going to go and do that. And I took myself off to college and went and done it. But I never knew about that. If I hadn't have literally driven down the road and seen that happening, I'd still be there delivering cash for Royal Mail. But I saw that, and I've ended up here.
I think, again, in today's sort of climate, and what you always hear people say, they should bring back national service, they should do this and do that. But every one of us wasn't forced to join the military. We all wanted to join the military.
Well, except Gary.
Yeah, but he still did.
He done pull-ups.
So there's always that little bit of pull. He didn't have to go through with it.
No.
He found a window, whether it be those pull-ups at that, and it opened the door to that way of life. No one forced us into actually literally doing it. They did it.
It's the same as tree work. You've got to want to do tree work,
and that's the point.
It's a similar sort of thing, because if you're out in the van and you've got a great big oak tree, you're looking at it thinking, right, what you've actually got to do is get up that tree and then start doing it. So you've got to actually want to do it. It's boiling hot in the summer, you're sweating. In the winter, it's cold, but you can keep yourself warm through working. You're pretty much uncomfortable all throughout the year doing tree work, as often you are in the military. So there's a lot of similarities, an awful lot.
Is there a love of nature, a love of the environment that's a motivator as well, or that doesn't really come into it?
Oh, you've got to want to be outside and enjoy nature, without doubt. Yeah, for me, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of people, I think, particularly forces people that don't like the office environment. They like to be out in the open air. Doing a bit
practical.
Being practical. Yeah.
We come from that way of life. We spend most of our life, especially the army side of it, in the field. The infantry boys, Louis, Gary, and Cal, would have spent 90% of their time in a basher, in the field, up a tree, next to a tree. So nature becomes part of it. You are, and as we evolve in our tree life, we move away a little bit, because you can't do it forever. It's a hard, your body falls apart doing the tree work. It's very, very hard. But every one of us has an interest in the evolution of trees, how trees grow, everything else, and we study afterwards. We all have our tech certs and we all have our qualifications and whatnot. So you learn the biology of the tree, what's going on with the tree. You're not just cutting it to appease someone, you're cutting it so that tree will flourish, it will bloom, how to do it right. Anyone can cut a tree, but to cut a tree properly or prune a tree properly is where we become the arborists. That's our knowledge.
Yeah, lovely, well said. No, really nice. I'm feeling the passion. It's inspiring, and it's nice. So thank you, everybody. I think this is a fantastic representation of a part of the business, and so many awesome backstories. I really hope anybody that's still serving and looking at a different life in the civilian world can really find some confidence from listening in here and knowing that there's a great future ahead, and possibly one with us. Thank you again, everybody, for your time today. And I'm sure anyone listening will join me in knowing that we will never forget the contributions and sacrifices made by our armed forces community.